Okay, so we can start. I continue first for recording. All right, so good afternoon, guys, and Assalamualaikum. Thank you for your coming for the next session. Okay, parallel session 2 at 12:30 to 2 o'clock. Okay, we are supposed to have 4 papers to be presented today with the 3 presenters. Okay, before I start, I'll give you some of the guideline for presentation. Okay, each presenter, okay, will have about probably about 30 minutes, okay, for the presentation, okay, where 20 minutes of presentation and then another 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A session, okay, and then I will call upon the presenter, okay, one by one, okay, and then after finish, okay, for each of this presentation, there will be Q&A session, okay, if let's say there is a question from the floor, and then kindly, okay, leave your camera on, okay, throughout the session. Okay, maybe it will be good to have a small interaction. Okay, I know Dr. Doria, but I don't know Dr. Muhammad. I can never see before.
Oh, really?
Maybe have, but accidentally I cannot remember your face might be.
I think we met in the cluster meeting before, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, now I can remember you. Once you open your camera, then I can see.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's nice to meet you. Okay, and again, of course, this is going to be a new norm for this conference. Okay. Most probably, this is the first time I'm become a moderator. Okay, for the virtual presentation, and we already had 12:34. Okay, it will be good that Dr. Muhammad, you have 2 papers here.
Yeah.
Okay? So basically, I'm being helped by Madam Kamsia, okay, to be an assist me if let's say something happened. Okay, Dr. Muhammad, so since that you have 2 papers, so how you going to flow? Is it you want to present 2 papers first, or after that Q&A? So how is going to work for you?
I'll first do the first paper.
Okay.
The papers are quite very brief and straight to the board presentation.
Yep.
Then after the presentation, we give time for Q&A.
Sure.
Then we go to the next paper.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You can start now, Dr. Muhammad.
Okay.
The floor is yours, Dr.
Okay. Very good afternoon. Thank you so much for introducing me and introducing yourself as well, and able to moderate this particular session. I'll be presenting 2 papers. First of all, the first paper is on the discourse on combating graduate unemployment in Nigeria. Throwing a question whether technical or VTech in short is the answer. I will explain. I don't have to follow the slides, is okay?
Sure, no worries.
Yeah. So the issue of unemployment has been a very big challenge in many developing African countries. Anyone following UNDP, EOCD statistics, you can see the challenge we are having when it comes to graduate unemployment. And especially now that day and day, if you are following news, particularly in Nigeria, you'll understand that 5 universities being established, 5 polytechnics being established, 3 of college of education being established, each college being converted to university. So they keep establishing a lot of tertiary institutions. While that is good for the access, while that is good for the massification, but the question is, when these students come out of the school, where are they going? So we are only planning for them to come in, but we have no plan to observe them when they go out. So the issue of unemployment is a very popular topic, but sadly, people are not really talking about it, especially in relation to academia. Now, so the purpose of this study is to identify the potentials of technical and vocational education in trying to combat the unemployment in Nigeria. So now, in order to achieve this study, we conducted a review of relevant published secondary data, such as research publications and technical report. There are a number of technical reports from World Bank, from UNDP, from EOCD, that well documented the issue of unemployment crisis in most of the OECD countries, which Nigeria, of course, is included. We also review quite a number of policy documents at state level within the country, at regional level within the country, at national level within the country, at region as a West African continent, as well as the global context. So we have reviewed a lot of policy documents. So putting all of this together, we adopted as a systematic literature review, even though we deal with certain numbers, especially when it comes to the statistics. But overall, because the review is the major method, so we adopted a systematic literature review. Now, so there were kind of 4 key findings. Number one is the study shows that vocational and technical education can offer a potential help in addressing the rate of unemployment. Even though we argue that we are not saying the findings doesn't show that, or we didn't say that the vocational and technical education should replace higher education. They are two things entirely different. Vocational and technical education and higher education, we all agree they are two separate things. But however, we agree that a lot of tertiary institutions, if they could have offered skill-based courses and programs, it will definitely help in converting graduate employment. One of our findings, we realized that the student doesn't have to go through the program when they come into the institution. You can have your diploma somewhere and you can still join the institution to get some certain skills based on your capacity and this institutional capacity as well to give you training. But while we understand that there is this technical and vocational education has a potential in converting this unemployment, but there is lack of clear policy framework or guidelines which are negatively affecting the implementation of the VTech itself. Yes, we have the National Technical and Vocational Education Board, which is responsible for, like somebody want to come in, right, in the floor. Come see here, somebody want to come in, I think. A participant. So we have the National Board for Technical Education, which is responsible for taking care of the polytechnics, motor techniques, and all other skills acquisition institutions. But nevertheless, there's no clear policy guidelines on why these institutions are there, what are they meant to achieve, and what should be their contribution toward the development of the society. And the worry part of it, you will find a particular institution was built as a polytechnic with the aim of producing engineers, mechanics and so on. But they are doing courses like public administration, accounting. We have seen a report where a certain polytechnic have more students doing, courses not related to technical education than those that are doing technical education. This is a polytechnic. The main agenda, the main goal is to produce soft-skilled manpower. That is the language. So now, instead of having students doing carpentry, design, tailoring, mechanics, electricians, and so on, they have more students studying business administration, public administration, accounting, and all sorts of courses that are not really meant, in essence, a lot of institutions have diverted from their main goal of producing this soft skill manpower and move into something else. So that was a policy problem, because the policy, why we understand it's a policy problem, the policy didn't restrict them from taking these students. The policy is open. So if let's say the government say, okay, fine, this institution is meant to produce electricians, for example, it should be very clear. You cannot go beyond that. So there's no clear policy. It's just a polytechnic, but anybody can come in. You want to study geography, you want to study biology, you want to study carpentry, you want to study electrician, you want to study ceramics. So there's no clear policy. It's only the name, polytechnics for soft skills, but the policy is so loose that anybody can come in and study whatever he likes. Then we understand that also VTech requires an entirely different academic structure than a university setting. They are two different things. So the policy there is assuming both the university and the polytechnic seems to be the same thing. So you need a PhD in economics to teach in economics. Also in the polytechnic, you must have a PhD in electrical engineering to teach electrical engineering. We are talking about soft skilled people with low skills, not sophisticated engineers that's going to work in Harvard, or work in Microsoft Word. These are people that need soft and basic skills. So it is more of who has the skills to taught them the skills. It's not about having PhD in software engineering. This is a guy, this is a person that wants to get the skills, go to Kampung and work for him to survive. So you come back from Harvard with your PhD in electrical engineering. You come here teaching him how to change the mobile, screenshot, mobile screen, how to turn the fingerprint. I mean, this is a guy that he wants to get the certificate, get the skills, go to Kampung and survive his life. So the academic structure we need in VTech is entirely different from the academic structure we need in the university. This is one of our findings. But unfortunately, the government feels it's all the same. You want to be a lecturer in the hill schools? Oh, you need a master's in geography to go and teach geography. You need a master's in plumbing before you go and teach plumbing. While these schools, they don't care about qualification. They're looking for people who have the skills, who have the ability to transfer the skills. It doesn't, so in other contexts, one of the reports we have read in Finland, these institutions, it doesn't really matter whether you have PhD or you're a professor. As far as you have the skills and you have the ability to teach others the skills, those institutions can employ you. You must not have an academic, proper and conventional academic qualification to teach in those vocational and training schools in Finland. You have the skills, you can transfer them, fine. So this is one of also our major findings. The academic structure need to be very clear. The VTech needs a different structure. Then we also was made to understand that there's need for more detailed framework that needed how TVET can potentially aid tackling issues of employment. So there was no clear framework. There was no blueprint. Okay, this is our problem as a nation or as a state, example, let's say Finland. Now, there was no clear blueprint given to the institution, this institution. Okay, look, this is our problem. Please go and do your own micro-institutional policies and solve it for us toward a collective societal development. So there was no blueprint. So the institutions themselves, they were not given a roadmap of why they are there. Okay, this is a polytechnic, we give you the money, we give you everything. We have this problem of unemployment, we have this short of this manpower, we have short of this. We are not dictating you how to run your institution, but we give you the money, you please go and do it on your own way. But this is the main problem that we want to say. So there was no clear policy, there was no clear framework on given to the institutions to guide them on what exactly to do. So the confusion is from both sides, institutional level and the policy level. So briefly, these are the few major findings we have done, and that is the, it's quite brief.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. So basically, this about the TVET, okay, and how TVET can solve, even though not 100%, but at least there is a way on how to reduce or combating the graduate unemployment in Nigeria, we specifically, okay. I'm open the Q&A session to the floor. If let's say Dr. Doria, you want to ask something, or maybe someone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Muftahu.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, I can
hopefully
hear you.
hope to see you in Penang again.
Yeah. Oh, you're not in Penang now.
Huh? So no. Hopefully I have chance to fly to Penang and meet you guys again.
Oh, okay, sure. Hopefully.
Okay, trying to make sense of the context here. Number one, I think, but since you've been in Malaysia for a while now, you would have probably realized that the higher education system in Malaysia has this polytechnic and the community college branch. Is that kind of structure possible in Nigeria? And then the second question is, because I can't help but catching this point from you, it seems like qualification is a must when you want to teach, especially for courses related to VT. Is it because of the hiring policy? Because if what I understand for polytechnics and community colleges in Malaysia is that you have the skills, if you can prove that you have the skills, at the same time you have the experience, most importantly to carry out the training, then you are accepted as a lecturer or as an instructor. So probably if you could update us, because your slide goes directly to the
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need a background for
okay. Okay. First of all, we do not have the community colleges kind of arrangement. We have 3 types of institutions, tertiary institutions. We have the universities that offers degree, master's and PhD. Then we have the colleges of education. These colleges of education are meant to produce teachers for primary and secondary school level. What we had in that schools is called NCE, National Certificate of Education. It is the minimum requirement for teaching, minimum requirement. So we have them across the country. Then we have another group, polytechnics and other skills acquisitions. They are put together in the same category. So in this last category, we have the polytechnics, we have motor techniques, monotechnics, and skill acquisition centers, national skills acquisition centers. They are all grouped together. So we don't have the community colleges, but these are the 3 main categories. Yeah, we have other few, National Institute for this, National Institute for that, but these are the 3 main formal tertiary education systems we have. The universities, the College of Education that produce the minimum teachers, they have minimum qualification for teaching, which is 3 years program, then polytechnics and other skills acquisitions institutions. Did I answer the first question?
Yes, actually, because then it gives me that impression. I do not know much about higher education system for Nigeria, but then it seems like everything related to skills training is lumped into others.
Exactly.
And then there were no really like, as you mentioned, broad-based direction in terms of where your skill training is going. Yes, that answered the question.
Okay, and just to add a little bit, in this 4 category, 3 category, we have both private and public. In the universities, we have private and public. In the College of Education, we have private and public. As well, in the polytechnic and other skills acquisitions, we also have public and private. So that's one part. The second part is, you made mention that in Malaysia, if someone has the skills and so on, you see this issue of diploma disease, credentialism, you know, and certifications, you know, and all sorts of things. I think theoretically, that's what drags us into that kind of thing. Obviously, in my country, I can tell you that if you don't have the qualification, you cannot get a job there. That's just the reality. Your experience, your skills doesn't matter. Now, you go to my country, like my kampung, you see people who have never gone to school. They can fix their car from, from head to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a car from UK today, bring it to Nigeria. It's like magic, These people have never been to school. They can fix everything that's wrong with your car. They have never been to school. But we have lecturers in the Polytechnic who have PhD in automobile. They also come to these people to fix their car. You understand? So what we are saying is, these people that have the skills and the experience, the government should come up with a policy framework on how to integrate them. How to integrate them into the schooling system. You understand? I give you an example, like in industrial village, where students will come and learn from these people. These people, they even have more tools than some schools, They have more schools. If you see their shop, you see they have all the spanners, all the, the gadget to check the battery, gadget to check the seat, to check everything. They have more equipment than some institutions, and they have never been to school. So it's so unfortunate that now if you want to build a house in my kampung, if you want to do the whole electrical wiring, you get one boy. He's never been to school. Maybe he can only write his name. He will do all the wiring, put everything perfectly. You go to Polytechnic, you find somebody with PhD electrical engineering. If he's building a house, you also call this boy.
Understood. So it's like a recognition. You don't recognize prior experience.
Exactly. So once you have the paper, you know it. So what we are saying is, let government come up with a policy framework. How can we integrate these people into the system? Because they are the one with actual knowledge. They are the one with the, but they don't have the qualification. So we are proposing a kind of integration system, a kind of half school, half industry kind of training, where these people with the expertise can be bring up to within the schooling system. It's up to the government to see how they want to integrate them, maybe to come and teach, or the student will go there for a kind of apprentice. But to answer your question, if you don't have the paper, forget about the job. But it's unfortunately that those people who have learned it informally have the knowledge, have the expertise, have the skills. Yeah, they may need some training on on knowledge transfer. I agree. They may need some expert from curriculum, from teaching and learning to give them some skills on how to transfer knowledge easily and so on and so forth. But if you don't have the paper qualification, it means you don't have the knowledge.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. So since that we have enough time for the first paper, so can we proceed with the second paper, Doctor?
Okay, can.
Okay, thank you.
Please,
okay, second paper is about the exploring, the role of higher education institutions in preparing the future workforce in contemporary Nigeria also, the challenges. Yeah, please proceed.
Are you seeing the paper now?
Yep. Okay, I can see it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I'm here again with another paper. Exploring the renewal role of higher education institution in preparing the future workforce in contemporary Nigeria, resilience and realities and challenges. In the morning sessions, one of our colleagues from Japan have presented a paper quite relevant to this paper, highlighting the direction we are heading when it comes to the new workforce during the post-pandemic period. So in this study, we try to look at what should higher institutions do, because the change have come, and one of the changes that COVID has brought in that comes to say is the education system and workforce system. These are the two things that are highly irreversible, whether COVID choose to go or COVID choose to be around. These things has systematically changed. So understanding this understand this preparedness of the institution, the study carried out a situational analysis to understand the challenges surrounding the higher institutions in Nigeria. Of course, the selected institutions in the study. Then, so in essence, the intention of the study was to understand the academic setup of the selected institutions to determine or recognize measures taken to prepare for the future workforce in the country. Now, as well, this was a baseline study. It's not an empirical study. We have adopted a qualitative approach using secondary data analysis and systematic literature review. We have reviewed a lot of studies, I think around 75 documents we have reviewed, and other reports, published materials intellectually discuss the role of our educational institutions and the challenges of encountering in preparing the future workforce and other similar nations, in African context, because we try to make a little bit kind of a comparison to understand what is happening in other countries. One of the findings is that challenges on higher education in Nigerian workforce are tied to political and economic conditions. Based on the findings of our study, the challenges of higher education in Nigeria are directly aligned with the political and economic condition of the country. In that study, we have understand how politics or how political setup or political economy really stabilize or destabilize higher education. One of them is lack of inadequate funding and suitable policies as were identified as the major concerns. Maybe just to share with you, as I speak to you now, in my country, we do not even have higher education blueprints, So one of the major problems is the policies. I mean, no matter how you are pumping money to the system, if it doesn't have direction, the monies will disappear on the air without any, because you have nothing to track the money. You have nothing to track the progress. And it's only when you have policy framework, then you can be able to track the progress. Where have you been yesterday? Where were you today? Where were you heading tomorrow? So these are the major concerns. Political and economic conditions of the country are really affecting the higher education system. And administrative and academics, personnel in higher institutions have to be resilient and flexible in devising different strategies and interventions in preparing the future workforce. Now, the money could be there. The money could be there, the policy could be there, but we know academics how resilient we used to be, when it comes to changes and so on. Especially now with this COVID. This COVID has exposed our weakness, Most of us doesn't want to go online. Most of us doesn't want to do things in a new way. But the major concern is that we realize lack of policy framework, lack of policy guideline is the major threat, is the major problem. While we agree there's no funding, but even if you have funding without direction, then it's still meaningless. So these are the things. And one of the implications of this, or interesting things about this study, is that we realize that for people or the academics in our context, they don't try to look at the relationship between political, economy, and labor. These are three. This is a kind of a cycle thing, No, and we are not trying to say that universities are there to produce people for the labor market, but political economy, academicians, and the labor system, they have a kind of integration system. They should have integration at policy level. They should have a clear guideline. They should have a clear direction. They should have a clear framework. But we understand people doesn't even see the relationship. People doesn't even see the connection. I can give example with Malaysia. Now, look at Malaysian. If you look at Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education, we have DGs coming and go going in and out. Today we have DG, 6 months, 9 months, gone. We have another one, new policy. I'm just giving an example in your context. And these things really affect the system, They really affect the policies, framework, and so on, coming down to the academics. At the same time, the policies at the Ministry of Human Resources or Ministry of Labor. So all these things, put them together, they need an integrated policy framework. They need an integrated policy framework. I think one thing that our politicians or our leaders are missing of is, or are not getting right, is lack of cohesion between them. If you look at the whole of these institutions, you cannot separate Ministry of Health from Ministry of Higher Education. We are not producing the doctors. We are not producing the nurses. We are not producing everything. But you realize the Ministry of Health, they are going south, and Ministry of Higher Education is going west. The Ministry of Labor, we need to understand, what does the industry need? What do they need out there? What is no longer relevant? What do we need to close? So Ministry of Education cannot understand this without Ministry of Human Resource. They are going to make prediction. In the next 20 years, we need more electricians than academics. In the next 50 years, we need more medical doctors than nurses. So now when Ministry of Education have all this data from other relevant agencies, that's only when they can plan for the higher education. But everybody is going solo, on solo jet, Everybody is going solo, doing his own way. But at the end of the day, the result goes in different direction, but for the same nation or for the same society. So, I mean, it's time, when somebody read this paper, we send the paper for review. One of the reviewers saying, at least now people have started talking about political economy, academics, and the labor at the same time. Now some people have trying to see the integration, the connection, the connectivity, and the networking between this. So these are the three major findings on this particular paper. As I said earlier, it's a conceptual paper. We didn't collect any empirical data, but we reviewed a lot of reports at state, regional, and the international level. So thank you so much. The floor is open for Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Dr. Muftahu, is it?
Yeah, Muhammad Muftahu. Muhammad is easy.
Yeah. Dr. Muhammad, easy for me to pronounce. Okay, any question from the floor?
Dr. Muftahu,
yes, please.
So it's Ministry of Education, and then coming down to the districts, and then coming down to the individual institutions. How does the flow of how should I put it, the ministry goes?
Well, in policy, it's bottom up, but in reality, it's top down.
No, I mean, because I want to understand the organization structure. So you have the Ministry of Education Nigeria, and then coming down to the district level.
Okay. Okay, I explain to you. Now, we have two governments, the federal government and the state government. You understand? Now, at the federal level, we have the Federal Ministry of Education, which control or give policies at national level. Now, under the Prime Minister of Education, we have the National Universities Commission. This commission is in charge of universities. We have National Commission for Colleges of Education.
Oh, the separate one to handle the education.
Yeah, you remember I mentioned the College of Education category. So we have National Commission for Colleges of Education. This commission is in charge of all the colleges of education, providing the minimum qualification for teachers. That is number two. Number three, we have National Board for Technical and Vocational Education. National Board for Technical and Vocational Education. This board supervises the polytechnics and other skills acquisition.
So the three categories of colleges and universities that you mentioned just now, each one has a board. So the board report to the ministry directly.
To the ministry, exactly.
Okay, so from between the board and the university, how does it work? So the university communicate with the board?
No, there are two things here. Now, when it comes to issue of funding, when it comes to issue of money, it is between the universities and the ministry. Money only, you understand? But the regulation of quality, standard, and accreditations is under the Universities Commission. The role is very clear. The Universities Commission has no business with money. They don't care about the budget and so on. The ministry deal with the universities. But when it comes to the academic issues, the ministry doesn't have that knowledge, doesn't have that power. The Universities Commission is the full of experts that will regulate universities in terms of quality assurance, you know, accreditations, courses approval, professional bodies, and so on. So the role is very clear, because the university, the ministry doesn't have that manpower, you know, to control all the quality courses and so on. So they established the National Universities Commission. So anything has to do with the academics or institutional development, knowledge, create a new faculty. Now, if you want to create a new faculty, you first of all go to the National Universities Commission. You prove to them, I have the manpower, I have everything. You understand? Then you go to the ministry, get the money and start. Or otherwise, you go to the ministry, you get the money, you can do all the building, you can hire the manpower, the NUST has to come and see, yes, this one is ready to go. Then it's okay, you can go. So if you want to start a faculty, you first of all send proposal to the ministry. I want to do faculty of engineering. Okay, fine. They give you the money. You do all the buildings, everything. Hire the manpower. But you cannot start until the university, the National University Commission certify that yes, you have all it takes. The laboratories is in the standard, the structure is there, the manpower is there, everything is there. Then only they give you go ahead to start the courses. So,
sorry, I'm asking you this question because I'm trying to link from the previous presentation that you have to this particular presentation, how it works. Because if you're talking about getting graduates ready for work at the same time having the pathway to get it done, it wouldn't be good if the ministry and as a direction provider and the National Universities Commission, National Colleges, Technical Colleges Commission, and also the Education Commission are separated without talking. So it's a system problem rather than an institutional problem. Did I get your point right? I mean, based on the two slides.
Okay. I agree with you. It's a system problem, but personally, I blame the institutions. Good. I will explain.
Okay.
I agree that the system is too bureaucratic. You understand? You need one thing. You need about 20 approvals to get it done. I know that doesn't help matters. But as institutions level, doctor, at institutional level, why don't we be patriotic to our own environment? Come up with our own. Today, the institution will say, we can say, we will no longer admit students on accounting. The ministry cannot say no. They have the power to say they cannot offer this course. You understand? So what I feel personally, I mean, just to go offline a bit, there's lack of patriotism part of us. As a rector of the Polytechnic, I can today say no. I will close down accounting department. I'll write to the ministry. I will convert this to electrical engineering department. The ministry will be happy. So I agree it's a system problem, but there is no political will at the institutional level. There is no political will at the institutional level. The ministry will never call a polytechnic and tell them you should start doing human resource management. The ministry will never do that. It is the school that take the proposal to the ministry. So
okay, understood.
They will tell the ministry, okay, this course, a lot of people working in the government, they need this diploma, it will give us money. But it's not, this diploma is not the reason why we established the institution.
Understood.
I agree with you, doctor. That's a system problem. I agree with that. But at the same time, I feel that lack of political will at the institutional level.
Understood.
Yeah. Did I answer the question?
Thank you. To an extent, because then I have another question, but then probably we can chat some other time.
Please ask because we have time.
Oh, okay. Because now I think for us, I mean us meaning to say Nigeria, Malaysia, and countries around this region, if you don't have the capacity as an institution, you are able to get foreign aid. So that's how, for example, certain international organizations like EU, like any other US aid, for example, come to the country to build capacity. And that's the strategy that the EU has been doing in terms of all the research funds, all the capacity development funds. So coming back to your point just now on the institution might not be able to have that capacity to change things, since the ministry only follows what the recommendation from the institution. So is there any way for the institutions to get foreign aid, or are they not optimizing the foreign aid enough?
Frankly speaking, Doctor, to be honest with you, money is not our problem, to be honest.
Okay, all right.
The
so it's
problem is
capacity.
Political will.
Okay, all right.
Political will. The problem is when you don't have policy for that, do check and balance. You know, when you don't have a policy that do check and balance, you always end up having negative results. Now, these institutions, they have, of course, higher education, we cannot say 100%, but they have enough. Let me use this word. They have enough funds. You understand? But to my understanding and to the based on review we have done, based on report, there is no accountability. There is no accountability. Now, let's take academic accountability. If the ministry said to the Polytechnic, this last year, in the last 10 years, we give you 10 million ringgit. Are you understand, Doctor? Last 10 years, we give you 10 million ringgit. This is a Polytechnic. You tell us how many engineers have we produced? How many technicians have we produced? That is academic accountability. I don't tell me about the people from human resource, people from business admin, people from accounting, people from mass communication. No, I gave you 10 million in the last 10 years. Tell me how many skills, how many students have you graduated with basic skills? Where are they working now? Give me the track. So you see, no academic accountability. That's what I mean, Doctor. Are you getting my? So no academic accountability, no accountability there. If as a Polytechnic, the government has given you 10 million ringgit in the last 10 years, you need to come to the government. Okay, the government should ask, last 10 years I give you 10 million ringgit. You tell me, this is a Polytechnic, an institution was made to provide people with soft skills for self-reliance. You tell me, in the last 10 years, how many people have you graduated? Where are they working now? How much are they generating? Give me that, give me the statistics. So if there is this check and balance of academic accountability, you know, mission accountability, vision accountability, you understand?
Yes, very clear, very clear.
No mission accountability, no vision accountability, no academic accountability, you understand? The Polytechnic will only say, okay, in the last, you give me 10 million ringgit fine, I produced 10,000 students. But 10,000 students, are they from the skills acquisition, which is the main mission of the institution? And if you produce 10,000 with soft skills, where are they? Give me the statistics, give me the data. How many of them are they working? What is the response of the labor market on them? Are they good? Are they bad? What is the rating? So no check and balance, Doctor. You understand what I mean? Not accountability.
Yeah, very, very clear. It's just that for me, it seems like the whole system itself is still in a developing phase.
It is. No,
yeah, not only is the institution having less capacity to build up the system from the ground up, at the same time, the ministry doesn't have the foresight to see through and to implement and to plan.
True. So academic vision accountability, mission accountability, academic accountability are not there. To be honest, they are not there. Dr. Abd Rahman, any comment?
Sorry, sorry, too many questions.
No worries. Secondly, it's
No, it's
very
okay.
interesting topics. Yeah, I noticed that because last time also my student is also doing research related to fundings in higher education. It's in Nigeria. Look into the parameters about funding and issue related to lots of issues basically related to Nigeria in higher education institution. But of course, there's a lots of things that you have to consider while you are in developing countries, where you are in the developed countries. Okay, of course, the direction, the clear direction, the blueprint, the strategies need to be in place. It's not just there, it's how you, this is simple, you know, as long as the money come from the principal as an agent, you need to follow, that's it. Okay, and it's true basically in the context of higher education, this is what happened. Okay, unless you are like the developed country where you are, you know, where you have to find money, where you have to generate income, where the process, everything is done by the university. So that might be different in the context of what they have in developed country and what we have in the developing countries.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. It's very interesting topic, but we have Dr. Doria, and the other one is supposed to be Dr. Thian. Dr. Thian, are you inside, Dr. Thian? No, okay, no. So, Dr. Muhammad, is it okay to do you have finished everything?
Yeah, done.
Okay,
Just
done.
sharing, right?
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And next paper is from Dr. Doria. Dr. Doria is going to discuss about the mergers in higher education. Are you looking into what happened in Malaysia, or you just discuss?
This is Malaysia, my Malaysia case.
Okay, sure. No worries. Okay, come, Dr. Doria.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, let me start my timer.
Okay, sure.
Right. Good afternoon to everyone. I think you should be able to see one slide. Okay. So very happy to be here today. Even though it's just presenting to a small group, because for me this is an important sharing nonetheless for all to see. So today I'm going to talk about a consultation project that we just conducted and concluded, talking about mergers in higher education, specifically a case study of what's happening in my own institution, of the merging of several entities of education. So mergers and acquisitions happen in the business world, but it also happens in higher education, and we will argue that there are more mergers coming out now for various economic and political reasons. It's not a trend yet in Malaysia to merge, but then we see some private colleges merging, acquired by companies, for example, but it is already a norm in countries like US, Japan, for the various reasons. So normally for mergers in higher education, the whole point of merging is actually to fulfill certain strategic directions. For example, when you merge two colleges of the same strength together, then it becomes stronger. Or it's merging of a smaller college to a bigger college, so that one college strength can complement another. Or due to economic reasons as well, probably there's dwindling enrollment, funds not enough to sustain colleges, so it makes sense to merge entities together. So these are the rationales behind mergers in higher education. So but more importantly, this shows an emerging trend on entrepreneurship, academic entrepreneurship in education. We are starting to look at education as a transaction. How do we balance the books? How do we make sure that the books always maintain in black not red. So that's mergers in education, the big picture context. Now, this is also related, some sort of introduction first. So when you talk about mergers in higher education, you need to look at it from different perspectives. Number one, we call so for this group of researchers, Sokalski and his team, they proposed 3 levels. So level 1 within the university itself, or the education entity itself, talking about the structure, talking about the direction, strategy, talking about the academic culture. Then you move on to a closer environment, level 2. Level 2 where you look internally as well as externally. Internally, you're looking at how do your stakeholders appear to the merger, and at the same time, what kind of policies that you need to serve, because in some case studies around the world, mergers are induced mainly because of government policy. If your funds are not sufficient, the government might require you to merge, or for better regulation of quality, the government has the right to give you the instruction to merge institutions. Normally, it occurs in private institutions. The third level, which is the level that affecting a lot of us, not just those who are merging, but also those who are not merging, are further environment. When we talk about economic factors, demographic factors, culture context, and more importantly, global variables. When we talk about global variables, it relates to global rankings. How do you want to be perceived internationally? How do you want to win the race in terms of international ranking? So that's the context of mergers. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, it's not a very familiar concept in Malaysia, which is why I started off this particular presentation with what is a merger. So now when we merge in the business sector, there's always people getting layoffs. There's always probably you might need to sell off your assets, write off your debts, rebrand. So the same happens in the academic field, I mean in terms of higher education, but it affects people in higher education differently. Now, other than the financial aspects, we are looking at 2 very significant groups that are affected severely. So the first group is the academic group. When you merge 2 different entities together, your identity change. Your workload might change. It might be that you have access to more research grants, but at the same time, you are getting more competition from others. For the administrative staff, their administrative load increases. At the same time, they need to navigate different organizational structures and cultures. So these are the changes experienced. Now, this paper talks about UTM. So 3 years ago, UTM underwent this exercise where we look at all the faculties that is around us, 18 in total during that time. And then we merge these faculties together. So imagine from 18 faculties, you come to 7 faculties only. 7 faculties plus 1 private wing for education. So at that time, the justification given for the merging is rankings. For UTM to play its role greater in rankings and climb up the rankings, we need to merge. And there's strategic movement that you need to do in terms of to enable it to merge. So that's why this paper, I'm excited for this paper because from this paper itself, I will let you know there are a lot of challenges in terms of merging, and you can't run away from certain issues related to the merge. Okay, so I've mentioned this just now. Other than the rankings rationale that were given by the university management, the university management also gave this particular reason. look, everyone is working in silo all this while. So we're talking about different sub-disciplines of engineering. For example, working independently. Mechanical engineers don't talk to civil engineers don't talk to electrical engineers, and so on. Even within the social science field itself, the language academy didn't talk to education faculty. The education faculty didn't talk to some other social science faculties as well. So for this exercise, we call it Synergy 4.0. The whole point of merging is to get everyone to break down the barriers and start working together. But does it happen? Not so. Now, this case study focuses mainly on engineering, because engineering is the biggest faculty that came out after the merging exercise. So imagine from 5 independent engineering faculties plus 1 school of faculty of computing, you merge it together, become 1 faculty of engineering. The sizes of each school is different. The culture of each school is also different. The excellence portrait is also different. So for the past 3 years, this faculty suffers in terms of how to navigate the working conditions together. So that's why this study is commissioned. And I'm very happy to be part of it. The whole point is to understand how to make these 6 schools work together, knowing the issues available. So the university introduces this transformation model called 6P. So people, program and products, promotion and partnership, physical facilities, performance, management, and purpose. So this is the theoretical dimensions that was built in order to enable the merger to happen better. So 3 years on, the Faculty of Engineering are having issues in terms of working together. So this paper actually looks at what are the pain points and good points to consider, and also what kind of things that can be done in the long term. So the study uses 2 types of data. The first type of data is actually a survey questionnaire administered to Faculty of Engineering staff, and administrative staff, as well as academic staff. We also use qualitative data in terms of focus group discussions. So for quantitative data, we have around 341 respondents. For qualitative data, 76. Pretty well distributed because prior to releasing all these data collection methods, we actually did some form of estimation, as in what would be the best way to capture different kinds of views for this particular merging process. So if you cannot remember all the slides that we're talking about today, this is the most important slide of all. The academics do not like the merge very much. Now, for the quantitative survey, we actually tested around 34 statements split across all the 6 sections: people, place, product, promotion, purpose, and performance delivery. As you can see, the academics have very negative perception out of the whole merging experience. They don't believe that it helps them individually in terms of how they want to build their academic discipline, to build their faculty school, and at the same time to work across different entities within the same big family of engineering. The non-academics, however, perceive it positively. We suspect that because the nature of work is different. Academics, we are publishing, we are teaching, we are collaborating to spread knowledge, to build new knowledge. That's why we see too many problems coming up from a merge that doesn't consider all the different nuances of different schools. But for non-academics, because their main role is to get things done. You give them one task, they will get it done for you, and their KPI or their performance is actually measured on whether they complete or carry out the task or not. So that's why this particular quantitative review is very telling in terms of the sentiment of the staff, especially from academics and the non-academics on the merge itself. Qualitative review, on the other hand, shows the in-depth or in-depth data on what are the things that the academics and the non-academics think about when they talk about our the Synergy 4.0 exercise. So for the academics and non-academics, they believe that yes, the merge helps to get things done. The merge gets people from different disciplines and different offices to start talking to one another. In terms of financial management, you do not need a lot of administrators, so a lot of costs are cut down for that aspect. Procurement can be done in a big bill, so everyone can specify what are the things that they need, and then the faculty as a big family, they can do their procurement process, hiring process, and other sorts of administrative work together. For the weakness, however, because things get done, but you don't think about the organizational structure. So there's too many layers that need to be passed. Decisions are slow. Because of too many layers, then you're talking about messages being sent not in the right way, and all sorts of issues that come from not being able to get things done based on the right job scope, the right instruction, and the right direction. So another item that was really telling from this qualitative review is that at the end of the day, 3 years after the implementation of this merge, academic staff and non-academic staff do not still get the picture of why we need to merge. So they are still thinking within that framework of, okay, I'm a civil engineer, I work best with my fellow civil engineers, for example. So it's a complex problem for the university to solve, because you're talking not just performance management, you're also talking about how to manage people, how to manage structures, and most importantly, for your core work as a teaching and research institution, how are you going to go about with this issue? So based on that particular consultation, so through focus group discussion and survey, and we realized that yes, while we are very ambitious in terms of wanting to be the best, not just in Malaysia, but also internationally, we might forget about the essential components that make us a university. Number one, the talent that you have. Number two, the assets that you have. How do you manage better? Not just the tangible assets like building, but also the intangible assets like your experience, your knowledge. At the same time, your product and program. More importantly, one critical element that was missed out from this particular merging exercise is change management. How do you make sure that when you introduce such big exercise, you need to handhold your community so that they are able to adapt and adjust to the change. So these are the recommendations that we provide, but essentially what we are, what is more of interest to us, those who are working in higher education, is that it's time for us not to import the model of mergers and acquisitions from the business world into the higher education sector without looking at the unique aspects that built us as a university. So staff agency is important. At the same time, there are a lot of areas for exploration, especially in terms of theory and concept development. All these things that I've shared with you, these are imported from international context. So what is the best way forward for Malaysia? That is, that is area for us to explore. With that, passing it back to the chair. Thank you for the presentation opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Doria. Very interesting. There's always, when it comes to M&A, mergers and acquisition, they always say that does size matters. Okay, I like that term, does size matters. Okay, so I open to Q&A from the floor. Any question or maybe comment that you want to share with us?
Well, I found this very interesting because I know here in USM we had similar
context
to merge few centers. I think IPPDN is one of the centers that were being considered to merge together with the Center for Policy Studies. But I just wonder, does branding matters, Dr. Doria? Does branding matters to all these merger? Now, let's take example, even though it's a different study. IPPTN has been there for 20 years. It has been known all over Asia and Africa and many countries. Now, how does it sound today to say you close down IPPTN? And in your context of the study, I was made to understand that you have closed the Faculty of Education, right?
Sorry, it's still there. It's just everyone is regrouped together based on the discipline. So if you're within the context of engineering, you are merging everyone that works with engineering together. If you are in social sciences, you are merging everyone in social sciences together. So that's the context.
So the name of the faculty is still there?
Yes, the name of the faculty is still there.
But still there's a kind of arrangement within?
Yes. So you still, you rather than you working alone, you have to report to a bigger group.
Okay.
Unlike before, if you are, for example, civil engineering faculty, you work alone and you only report to the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Now you are reporting to a kind of like a dean to handle all the engineering faculties. So that's the additional layer of context.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Any more question from the floor?
To respond to Dr. Muftahu's remark, is branding important? One element that I didn't highlight in a big way in the presentation slide, but it was implied, is actually leadership. So it's actually the leader, him or herself, that sets the course. So if your Qiblat, for example, is Johor already, if your Qiblat, for example, leads to global, you want to be the best in rankings, then that's the narrative that you're going to pursue. And for you, that's important. But essentially for us academics, what is more important is actually our collegiality, our discipline. If leaders do not take that into consideration when they do the merging, you're bound to have a lot of issues coming out, especially from the ground up. So hopefully I answered that question, Dr. Muftahu.
Yes, Dr. Yudis.
Thank you, Dr. Doria. Any more questions? We still have time before we come to the last presenter, Dr. Thian. Any more questions? Okay, if let's say no, I remember that because when it comes to mergers, UAM was first university that have been implemented, because that time they are following, they're so eager with the Harvard, they are so eager with the Oxford universities process, everything. And then they follow the same method. But later on, I know there is a lots of issue, but basically, finally, what UAM done, okay, today you can see the good things of having mergers exactly from the several faculties, but of course it will take time. The academician is always
the problematic groups.
Yeah. Because what they are scared about their so-called like their entity, okay, having eaten by others. So but if let's say we go into current situation of having no lack of funding, everything restructuring, so this is
actually a necessary evil.
Yeah, might be. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Doria. Very interesting presentation. We go to the final presenter, Dr. Thian. How are you, Dr. Thian?
Great, thanks.
Good. Okay, so Dr. Thian is going to present paper titled Entrepreneurship Through Multidisciplinary Learning, a Cooperative Framework for Implementation. Okay, Dr. Thian, where are you from, Dr. Thian?
I'm with Talis University currently, Center for Future Learning, as well as School of Education, Talis University.
All right, all right. Okay, the floor is yours, Dr. Thian, come.
Thanks, I'll share screen.
Yep.
Can you see my screen? Great.
Yep.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm Boon, once again, from Center for Future Learning and School of Education of Talis University, Malaysia. On behalf of my co-researcher, I would like to present to you our paper and study, Entrepreneurship Through Multidisciplinary Learning, a Cooperative Framework for Implementation. So this is an outline of my presentation. I'll cover the different components of our studies. So the biggest challenge that the grand challenge that we are trying to address is how to nurture entrepreneurship among students to address the concern of graduate employability and to support academic development, especially post-pandemic. And while the number of entrepreneurship courses offered by HEP is increasing, we take note of that, transforming a traditional university to nurture student entrepreneurs is still a challenge. In supporting the entrepreneurship intention, the Ministry of Higher Education has shared or has actually launched two important documents. One is Entrepreneurship Action Plan for Higher Education, Higher Learning Institutions, 2021 and 2025 to 2025, as well as the MOHE Guide to Entrepreneurship Integrated Education. The intention is really to nurture our student entrepreneurs. And based on literature, we have taken note that the entrepreneurship program available or have been studied. There is a need for more experiential learning or challenge-based learning, and also more multidisciplinary team learning, especially team that consists of students or academics with complementary competencies. And in fact, according to students, the multidisciplinary learning experience is the most value-adding aspect of a challenge-based entrepreneurship program. And the whole intention to do so is to increase entrepreneurship intention, as well as to enhance the success of an entrepreneurship venture. Now, having said that, while there's a lot of emphasis in the literature and the need for multidisciplinary team learning, transforming a current faculty-centric learning into a multidisciplinary learning is still a challenge. Hence, the focus or the challenge of this study is to answer this question. How can we transform faculty-centric learning into multidisciplinary learning so that students from different disciplines can work cooperatively to enhance the success of an entrepreneurship nature? And this study leveraged on this framework called Cooperative Learning Framework because of its similarity to multidisciplinary learning. And a cooperative learning is defined according to the literature, a learning design where individuals in a team collaborate on the same or different aspects of a shared task to accomplish shared and individual learning goals with a certain level of interdependence among the members, and also structured by an academic. And there are two important principles in the literature that are being highlighted to ensure the success of this collaboration learning or cooperative learning. The first principle is called commitment to individual accountability and positive interdependence. And the second one is the alignment to the 8 components of collaborative learning design framework identified by GHEF2021. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see a little bit more detail on the 8 components, but I will not get into the detail of that. Now, the curriculum in higher education have actually increasingly incorporate cooperative learning. However, teachers still experience difficulties in implementing the method, especially when the team involves individuals from different disciplines. Hence the need for this study. In addition, the literature have also highlighted some of the challenges faced in the implementation of multidisciplinary learning. And the challenges include at institutional level, the lack of institutional level support, lack of commitment among the academics, lack of interest among students, as well as challenges faced during implementation, including challenge in terms of communication and collaborate across different disciplines, difficult in getting equal commitment from all members, which could be due to different levels of ambition, and also workload among the members, as well as a difficulty in scheduling meeting because of different study schedule. In addition, the literature also have highlighted various strategies to increase student commitment, since that is a very important challenge. The strategy include, number one, select projects that require different expertise from different disciplines, which is a very obvious, for obvious reason, to ensure students commit to that collaboration. Number two, focus on team formation, so that students have a chance to negotiate how they will collaborate. Number three, help students to learn to confront disagreement constructively, and also deepen the appreciation of their learning through reflection. Number four, ensure sufficient time for discussion across discipline, including having a very structured timetable. Now, in summary, in a nutshell, the success of the multidisciplinary learning implementation depends a lot on the ability of academics to regulate students' behavior. Now, having said all this, while the collaborative learning design framework identified by GHEF2021 has provided a generic framework to support multidisciplinary learning implementation, a framework with more detailed procedure is still needed to guide the academics and students. Hence, the need for this study and why this study was conducted in the first place. The study, a little bit more about the study context. The study was conducted at the private university in Malaysia, which is actually, the study was within the context of a 2-year learning transformation project of the university to institutionalize multidisciplinary learning at all its bachelor degree programs. While this study is actually done during the first year of the project. And the objective of this project is really to nurture graduates who are entrepreneurial, able to solve complex problems, as well as excellent in collaborating across discipline. And students basically are required to apply their discipline knowledge in a multidisciplinary setting in the 2nd or 3rd year of their studies. So most basically, the setting of the collaboration need to be, the collaboration need to be formed across different existing courses from different disciplines, and for students to work on a common task or certain component of a common task. And the task must contribute to the student's final grade in order to ensure reasonable commitment among students. And this study has leveraged on the concept of cooperative learning, as I mentioned just now, given the nature of the collaborative learning across different disciplines. Let me do a little bit more detail. The research object, this study actually consists of 2 phases. The first phase is what I call design phase, and the second phase is pilot implementation phase. And the research objectives for the first phase, design phase, is to identify the key challenges in implementing or institutionalizing multidisciplinary learning, where students are required to apply the discipline-specific knowledge in a multidisciplinary setting, and also to identify strategies to address those challenges, and most importantly, to propose a multidisciplinary learning cooperative framework to systematically implement multidisciplinary learning, leveraging on the concept of cooperative learning, and with the intention to enhance the success of an entrepreneurship venture. Now, the second phase, what I call a pilot implementation phase, is to identify further refinement needed based on the proposed multidisciplinary learning framework, so that the framework is in a way improved or perfect before the full implementation. So these are the research objectives. In terms of methodology, guided by the research objective, the most suitable research methodology is design-based research, where the methodology focuses on developing theoretical insights as well as practical solutions simultaneously. And based on the framework from McKinney 2019, as you can see on the right-hand side on the screen, this design-based research consists of 3 phases. The first one is analysis and exploration, number 2, design construction, and number 3, evaluation and reflection. So compared with the study, the 2 phases of this study, the first phase, design phase, cover the first 2 phases of McKinney's model, and the second phase, pilot implementation phase, cover the 3rd phase of the McKinney, which is reflection, evaluation and reflection. So the design of the study is very aligned to the different phases of a design-based research. Guided by the design-based research as well, the researchers of this study are directly involved in the design and pilot implementation of the proposed cooperative framework for multidisciplinary learning. So this is the overall idea on the methodology. More specifically, in terms of procedure, for the first phase, which lasts for 5 months, the procedure, the strategy is actually that was actually done was a small-scale trial run to learn and develop the framework. So the trial run was conducted over a normal semester, 5 months, and the courses that the discipline and the courses get involved are the one that with a stronger commercialization intention. So there are three collaboration. The multidisciplinary collaboration, number one is between among the business, specifically a business startup courses and engineering discipline, focusing on product development. And the second collaboration is among three parties. Number one is business, a business startup course, computing, focusing on product development, as well as the design discipline, focusing on user interface to improve the user experience. And the third collaboration involved in the trial run is actually among two parties. First is biotech, focusing on food product development, as well as design discipline, focusing on packaging design. So, these courses were actually identified because of their commercialization potential and intention. So the procedure basically gone through the normal research process, obtain consent, data collection through interview with course leaders, analysis of the course information, observation of student work, and or presentation. That is actually for the first phase. For the second phase, which is a pilot implementation phase, lasts for another 5 months during a normal semester. The intention is really to refine the framework proposed during the first phase and before a full implementation at the university level. So the courses involved are selected to maximize potential variation. A few courses from the first phase continue their journey in the second phase and joined by new courses. So the collaboration basically fall under two categories. The first one is among the three parties, the same as during the first phase, business, computing, and design. Then the second collaboration has expanded members among the biotech, food product development, culinology, food product development, media and communication, brand management course, as well as design, the packaging design course. So similar procedure have been deployed, obtain consent, interview a course leader, survey the student who participated in the collaboration, analysis of course information, and collaboration agreement. The collaboration agreement is the outcome of the design phase, as well as observation of student work. Ongoing data analysis was done, and also reflection has been carried out along the way. And the key findings was reviewed by key information provider, in this case, the course leaders, for potential rival explanation. So this is a little bit more detail on the procedure. So I'll move on to the findings. As I mentioned just now, the study consists of two phases, the design phase as well as the pilot implementation phase. During the design phase, the three questions was asked. Number one, what are the challenges, the strategies, as well as the proposed framework. In terms of the challenges, we concluded 4 important challenges or key challenges. Number one, lack of interest among the academic, as you can see on the screen. And second is actually lack of know-how to implement this. The third one is conflict among students. I must highlight this. The conflict among students was way underestimated. We anticipated challenges for students to collaborate across discipline, but we've seriously underestimated the challenges faced by students and the conflict involved. And the final one is lack of support from the ecosystem. I will share with you a little bit more detail on the challenges shortly, but I thought it's good to compare with the strategies that we have identified through the study. The first strategy is actually leadership commitment and strategic vision. We learned that the reason we can survive the study is because our leaders have made commitment, and this is part of an institutional level project to make this happen. So because of that, it really helped to maintain the momentum, help the team members to maintain momentum to continue the journey. Second is actually the institutional level coordinated effort, which is deemed to be very important based on the feedback by all the participants. Multidisciplinary is very unique in a way, involve discipline from different faculties, and this needs a lot more coordination for an alignment. So it cannot be done without a well-coordinated effort at the institutional level. And the third one, based on the finding, is actually aligned ecosystem. I would like to share a little bit more about the challenges. So for the first two, these are some of the verbatim statements that we have collected from the course leaders during our interview and discussion and reflection. So in terms of lack of interest among academics, verbatim statements such as these appear or emerge. The inherent culture of most of my colleagues' mindset do not favor interdisciplinary collaboration, and is considered as lack in focus and dilutes the standard of specialized outcome. So these are among the concern of the academics, and resulting in them not very interested in getting involved if possible, even though this is actually a university strategic intention. Another quote that have picked up is actually due to the negative perception of the interdisciplinary collaboration, fear of unnecessary extra workload because a lot more alignment across discipline to be done, and efforts having to teach and guide interdisciplinary students, including a student from different disciplines, with unfamiliar processes, protocols, and expectations. So causes a lot of concern among the academics. That is on the lack of interest among academics. The second part is lack of know-how. The alignment across the modules or the courses from different disciplines was really challenging. And the reason is because the courses was designed independently, guided by the program level intention rather than this interdisciplinary collaboration intention. Hence, all the courses that differs in learning outcome, pedagogy, and assessment. So that's one part of it. Another part is actually there were also logical concern about class sessions for collaborative meeting discussion, because this is initially was not built in officially as the student timetable. Hence, there's a challenge even for the student to communicate. Now, more specifically in terms of conflict among students, as I mentioned just now, we have really underestimated the conflict that we need to manage among students. So there were clashes of personality, school of thought, prejudice, and pride. These are all actually become so noticeable from even the first gathering and briefing of the students from different disciplines. And some students from certain disciplines were more outspoken and being seen as dominating the conversation in the groups, while some challenge each other for their voice to be heard. So the student find working across discipline as truly challenging. And another part I mentioned just now is lack of support from the ecosystem. Lack of one of the challenges faced by the team initially is actually to design or to obtain multidisciplinary project from industry. So far, the project received from industry for student working purpose are single disciplinary. So to engage industry to provide multidisciplinary project itself is actually a challenge to start with. In addition, another challenge is actually to support students to commercialize the product or start a business towards the end of the collaboration. So in fact, this requires a lot of support from the support department or support function within the institution. Yeah, as I mentioned just now, in terms of strategy, a well-coordinated effort as well as the support from the ecosystem is really needed to make this happen. Now, more specifically in terms of the multidisciplinary learning framework, as I mentioned just now, the third objective of the design phase, the outcome actually interestingly land at two components of the framework. The first component on the left, as you can see, the one in yellow here is a guideline to implement this multidisciplinary collaboration supporting the entrepreneurship intention. And the second component is really a template for multidisciplinary collaboration agreement to be established. So let me get into a little bit more detail about the guideline. So learning from the experience, what was actually developed in terms of the guideline is actually, the guideline consists of 6 important sections. And the first section is actually objective of multidisciplinary learning. And this is so important because we need to be able to explain and convince students the purpose and benefit of doing so for them to actually buy in and for them to be committed to this learning. In fact, not only for students, for academics as well, we need to convince the academics. And the second is actually on establishment of multidisciplinary learning collaboration. As I mentioned just now, this is another important challenge. Academics from different disciplines know their own courses well, but they may not know the courses from another discipline. So, so a lot of communication is needed to understand each other, resulting in a multidisciplinary collaboration agreement, which is the second document that I'm going to share shortly. So the reason we choose the word agreement is to highlight the importance of the commitment for this collaboration in order for students to gain the benefit and have a good experience in terms of learning. The third part is communication and collaboration engagement. So this is another important dimension. The whole intention of multidisciplinary learning is for students to engage each other and work together. So, an important learning from the study is that the importance of involving all the key parties in the collaboration to join and to be aligned, I would say, to ensure to be aligned on the purpose and the implementation of this collaboration to ensure the effectiveness. Next section is multidisciplinary project design. This is another important dimension. The collaboration is very much anchored around the project that the collaborating parties would like to work on. So the design of the project is very important. It must actually require the complementary competency from different disciplines. And this one was aided, in fact, unfortunately, because of a very sad experience. During the design phase, there were 3 collaborations. In fact, the first collaboration did not last more than 4 weeks. It was ended prematurely because of a lot of challenges faced in terms of the design as well as implementation. And the second collaboration almost ended prematurely as well. And we managed to salvage the situation and complete it. So that was during the first time we tried it. So, and we learned one important point is actually the discontinuation. How to manage discontinuation of collaboration agreement is very, very important. And the reason is because we would like, in case the relationship need to be ended, we would like the relationship to be end in a positive note to mitigate potential negative impact on student. So what we don't want is the student, because of the experience, think that collaboration is actually not a good thing to pursue. And the last part is actually on intellectual property. This is another important dimension because of the commercialization and staff intention. So students become sensitive to, when I share my idea with my collaborating parties, will I continue on the IP, my idea? So we added this section to ensure clarity of intellectual property ownership within the context of the collaboration. So this is a lot more on the guideline that has been developed. I would like to continue by sharing a little bit more about the template for establishing the collaboration agreement. So it's actually presented in a series of questions as well as a consideration. On the left-hand column, as you can see, there are altogether 11 questions that we need our collaborating parties to answer in the process of forming the collaboration agreement. So the first question is again, so these are a lot more housekeeping, I would say, question. What are the collaborating courses, the courses learning outcomes, assessment tasks, and their year level? So this is more for the collaborating parties to understand each other. Now, year level is important because we learned that similar level of maturity among students is important to ensure the success of the collaboration. And also collaboration parties is good to be kept at 3 courses because 3 courses itself, the collaboration can be challenging and well manageable. We also want the conversation or the agreement to talk about what are the purposes as well as benefits of the collaboration to the collaborating student. And this is a very important point. The collaboration must be seen as win-win. For example, the student join the collaboration, we be able to enjoy the complementary competency to develop a product or business plan for commercialization. And for certain parties or students, it's a lot more to experience a real context for application of knowledge, supporting their peers with the intention to start. So the purpose of the collaboration and benefit to students need to be clearly articulated. And number 3, what is the relationship among the collaborating courses? When we talk about relationship, we actually talk about the level of interdependence. So will the collaboration be a lot more high? Will it be high in interdependence? What we call as end-to-end equal partnership, similar to business partners, or it can be slightly lower in terms of interdependence, what we call client servicing, a client-supplier kind of relationship. So the relationship need to be clarified at the onset. 4th question, how the student assessment will be conducted. And this is so important because students are primarily motivated by how assessment will be conducted. And this is also an important conversation to mitigate potential risks. So, so we need to, so the agreement asks for a decision whether the assessment will be done within the context of a discipline or will be jointly assessed across discipline. Yeah, so this is another important conversation. Number 5, how the learning assessment activities, especially the formal joint session, if any, are scheduled across learning weeks. And this is very important because the collaboration need to allow for a lot of alignment and communication, as well as the learning and activities and assessment schedule to be all aligned. And this will ensure the priorities and commitment across collaborating parties are properly aligned. Number 5. Number 6, how will the group be formed? As based on literature, this is an important conversation as well. What is the number of students for each discipline per collaboration? So this involves purple matching and also capping the number of students in the collaboration as the complexity increases if when the student number is too huge. Number 7, what's a common time slot? This is a little more detailed, I would say, but it's so important. Having a common time slot for students to collaborate and work together in addition to work independently is very important. So what we have experienced is actually at least 1 hour of common time slot for students to work collaboratively per week. Number 8, how will students communicate with each other? Having an established communication platform is very important. And in fact, as you may notice, as you may realize that recently we experienced a pandemic. So this study was done during the pandemic time where the learning is almost 100% online. Hence, this communication platform becomes very critical. What is the multidisciplinary project about? So this is talking about the project itself as well as the intellectual property. So as I mentioned a few times already, the project must require competency from different disciplines. And this is another very important point, the expected deliverables from each party and by when. And this needs to be explicitly agreed on. So to ensure the benefit for the collaboration to be fully experienced by the student. And the last but not least is actually the more detailed role and responsibility of all the parties involved, students, supervisor, course leader, and with clear authority and accountability, including conflict management, as this is cross-disciplinary. So we have developed the guideline as well as the template for collaboration agreement during the design phase. What we've done is actually continue the second phase, pilot implementation phase. During the pilot implementation phase, refinement took place. So we basically do a pilot run involving a few collaborating parties and try out what we have developed during the first phase, the guideline as well as the template for agreement. What we have learned through the process, talking to the course leader, reflecting on student feedback and the outcome, is that there are a few important points to be highlighted. Number one, in terms of communication and collaboration, it's important, this has been highlighted again and again, it's important for early involvement of all the parties before semester commencement to align the understanding on the purpose of the project and how to implement it. Having a collaboration kick-off meeting is very important to align the academics and the student to ensure clear understanding of the collaboration as well as to break the ice among students, because students have not been learning with each other. That is actually almost the first time they probably know each other in collaboration, and the arrangement for the learning is very intense. And a focused guideline on managing conflict, as I mentioned just now, we learned this as a very unexpected level of conflict was actually experienced. So we have actually a dedicated guideline to help students to manage this. We also put in conscious effort and also in the guideline to encourage students to reflect on the experience to deepen their learning. And I always believe this is very helpful, because what is important is not for students to just go through the process, but also to really learn deeply from the process. And in terms of the project design, we have actually come up with a template, project brief template. And the reason is because we learned that this is so important for the collaborating parties to understand the intention of the project clearly and explicitly. So the project idea originator will actually complete the document and share with all the parties, and they discuss the project. In actual practice, because the intention is to support entrepreneurship intention, so in actual practice, the commercialization department, business incubator, and also the makerspace, they are all involved and being consulted during the project idea conceptualization, as well as they are involved again during the final presentation to support the students' intention to commercialize as well as to start up. So these are the few refinements. I'm moving my presentation to conclusion. Second part is on the template. We also make some refinement. As I mentioned just now, we actually learned that the university actually learned the importance of a common slot. So the university actually allocated a dedicated common slot at the institutional level for all courses involved in this collaboration. So it became a university practice. And we also learned this pretty painfully, the importance of very detailed information about the deliverables from all the collaborating parties. For example, prototype with 30% functionality to be completed by week 12. So this level of details is very important so that it align or calibrate the expectation from the different collaborating parties. And last but not least, we also learned the importance or the usefulness of the student behavioral contract. So we actually encourage the use of it so that students understand how behavior are expected in this collaboration. For example, focus on the issue, not the person, always attend meeting well prepared, and these are useful to reduce the conflict among students. Okay, in a nutshell, what we found is actually the key challenges found through this study is very consistent with the existing study, except in terms of lack of interest among students, which is not very apparent in this study. And I think that the reason is because this learning the learning for this study is credit bearing, it's been part of a formal curriculum. So in a way, it's part of the student formal learning journey. However, I must acknowledge the actual number of students becoming student entrepreneurs is still limited, partly because of the journey. The university is still at the very early stage of its entrepreneurship journey. In terms of strategy, I noticed that the strategy that I mentioned just now at the most strategic level has not been widely mentioned by existing study. And based on my understanding, the reason could be because this study focused a lot more on institutional level strategic plan and a full implementation across discipline, while the literature that we have seen so far report a lot more on isolated effort from certain faculty, center, or programs. And in terms of the multidisciplinary learning cooperative framework that I mentioned in quite great detail just now, we learned that the framework actually is supportive of the key principle of the cooperative learning, as I mentioned earlier, namely commitment to individual accountability and positive interdependence. So this principle is very aligned or well supported by the framework that we have developed. In addition, the proposed framework provide more details or operational consideration to guide the implementation of the 8 components of the framework identified by the GHEF2021. So it provides a lot more detailed consideration. So in summary, the framework provides more comprehensive and practical procedure to guide the implementation of multidisciplinary learning, supporting the entrepreneurship agenda of a university. In terms of limitation and recommendation, the data analysis is primarily based on reflection and discussion among the 3 researchers as well as the course leaders. So arguably, more systematic and detailed data analysis could have strengthened the validity of the findings. And the robustness of the findings can be increased through replication of more diverse discipline. And we think that a follow-up study can be conducted to confirm the effectiveness of the framework proposed during the full implementation. And we also see the value of conducting further studies at different types of institutions so that the framework proposed is a lot more comprehensive, taking into consideration the different natures of the institutions. So in conclusion, the study have affirmed the importance of the 2 key principles of cooperative learning in implementing multidisciplinary learning. And also the framework proposed provide a more detailed procedure. I'm repeating myself, but I thought it's important to be re-emphasized. But all in all, to reflect on the study, a lot more strategy and consistent effort is still needed to nurture student entrepreneurs. In my opinion, this study is very important because it actually provides a bridge to fill the gap in a way that it has expanded the practical knowledge in the multidisciplinary learning implementation. It also, the framework I think is very important for institutions who would like to implement this, supporting the entrepreneurship agenda of the institutions. With that, I conclude. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Boon. Any question from the floor?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
Dr. Thian, thank you so much for the presentation. I enjoyed it very much because this is actually an actual sorter in terms of proving that multidisciplinary learning works. Now, the question comes in terms of, I noticed just now there's an engineering section that you brought in. How do you address the requirements from the Board of Engineers relating to this kind of collaborative work?
Good question.
Yeah, because that is normally what the engineering lecturers talk about when we push them to collaborate. Okay, so
I understand.
over to you.
Sure. This is a very, very important question. In fact, this is one of the among the first thing we do because we want to be sure that what we want to do get clearance and will not affect the program's accreditation, will not receive negative comment. So among the few things we have done is, number one, we do check with the EAC council member about the intention. And the feedback we receive is what is more important to EAC is actually the student learning outcome is really achieved and can be attributed to the students' effort. So that is important. So they never discourage actually multidisciplinary learning. So the first part. Having said that, we also look very detailed on, because we have colleagues from engineering faculty, so we look into greater detail into the EAC manual, what we call the accreditation manual, and we notice that there are more specific requirements in terms of the integrated project, the group project, group design project, as well as the individual student final project. So these two have greater control, like the individual project has to be individual, so the collaboration may not be very appropriate. Then in terms of group design project, that's where we see an opportunity. We actually explore that. So that's actually what we targeted actually to leverage on the group design project of the engineering curriculum for this purpose. Having said that, we faced a lot of challenges initially in getting students to collaborate, because I think it's not because of the engineering, but because of we are at the early stage of the collaboration. What we did not anticipate, in fact, is actually we did not do a very good job initially in aligning the collaboration. So what happened was we have actually the engineering student want to start designing the engineering product at the beginning of the semester, while we have our business student is still exploring on their idea. So there is a timing issue. So our engineering student get very frustrated because the business student doesn't know what to do yet, and yet they need to start their product development. So they really argue and say, they blame each other. So
it's actually a clash of, I think, credit, and then at the same time, the mindset. I mean, engineering students handle things in a certain way.
Yes, that's another challenge. Yeah. So our engineering, in fact, computing students, they cannot understand how can the business student be so fluid in their ideas. They exploring idea, they try this, they want this, they say, you have to settle with what you want to do, and so that we can do our product development. You cannot keep changing your ideas, So, and it's partly actually we managed to, partly because of the intention. I think the students from different disciplines are being trained differently, and there's an expectation from the curriculum. It was designed without the intention of collaboration. Having said that, we managed to address this by timing. So the solution is really the timing. You need to say the business student need to first establish the business idea, what they want to do. They do the early market validation, confirm the project idea, then only the engineering and computing student come in for product development. So we shift the timing a little bit. So when the engineering and computing student come in, the business student already a little bit more settled. No, they are not exploring and changing their idea. So, and then for that reason, the collaboration become a lot more smooth. So that happened from the second semester onward, not the first time we do it. The first time, they just cannot get along well, and then week 4, they say we are done with each other.
Understood. It's very hard because when you're the nature of your discipline works in a certain way, particularly for business studies, the others cannot understand how they work.
Oh yes. The science students are trained to for their lifetime explore or find out the single version of truth. That's what they want to do as a science student, the single version of truth. And while the social science student always look at multiple realities and multiple truth, there's no single version of truth in life. So there is a very fundamental difference in their worldview, the perspective towards the discipline and learning. So so in fact, if I may add on to leverage on your question, the challenge is not just with the student. In fact, you probably can imagine the challenge of the academic as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. So while we say this journey is for the student, our intention behind our mind is really training the lecturers to learn from each other. And we keep highlighting to the lecturer, until you learn how to manage your student, until you embrace it, your student will not embrace. Yeah, so the lecturer need to embrace first before the student. So that's why we started very small, because how should I put it? Because we only a few person believe in it. To be very honest.
Understood.
There are only a few pioneers who say, okay, I want to do this. And they say, maybe you try first, then you tell me later. So
but I understand also from your side, that's why you keep repeating students' problems are bigger. For the lecturers, actually, it's a top-down thingy. So when the management said you need to do this, we have to sit together and work. But the students' problem is more interested, more interesting actually.
Yes. In fact, both experiencing challenges, I would say, academics as well as students. Yeah, so we have learned a lot, and that's why we really document what we have learned, and so that it becomes like a recipe for implementation. And so the pilot implementation, thank God there's no divorce. divorced. So they continue until end of the semester. The collaboration. The first one, yeah, week 4, they're done. Then another one, after 10 weeks, they say they almost want to break off. So the second attempt was a lot more successful. I think because we made some adjustment to the learning journey. So the students don't feel like, no, why are you doing this to me? Like, because they have very tight deadline for the assessment, and all the collaboration is within the context of assessment. So so the computer student week 4 need to submit the proposal, and the business student don't have the deadline and still thinking about what to do. So for example, and they really quarrel. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hopefully it's it's a good experience for to share with everyone.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Thank you, Dr. Boon and Dr. Doria for the questions and answer. We already come to the end because it's almost 2:30, and before we close the session, I would like to say thank you very much for the presentation from Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Doria, and of course, finally, Dr. Boon with the detailed presentation about entrepreneurship. Before we end, the Secretariat, Madam, where's Madam? Kamsia. Okay, we want to take pictures, is it?
Yeah. Please
Yeah.
on
Okay,
camera.
so please on the cameras.
Okay,
Dr.
ready?
Muhammad.
Okay.
Yep. The rest?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, ready? Okay, smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for the session today. Madam Kamsia, anything else for this session you want to announce to the presenter especially?
Cuma nak ingatkan siapa untuk staff USM, tekan link yang diberi checkbook untuk dapatkan masa CPD.
Oh, okay.
Itu sajalah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, see you. Bye.
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 Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, guys. Thank you.